Hey guys, welcome to the rebranded Sports Talk with Hawk podcast. Welcome in. I know I said in the last video that released early Saturday morning. I know I said in the last video that I was trying to work on getting the graphics done and hoping to redo the graphics and rename the channel sometime next week. They got done earlier. And so yesterday I worked on getting everything switched around. Got all of the links posted. My Twitter is posted. The Discord that I have is posted. And so everything is now on the YouTube channel itself. If you're listening on Spotify, jump over to YouTube. I am posting on both. But YouTube is where I will have more interaction, have more things that are going on. I actually looked at what I needed to be able to grow the channel even more. I was kind of going through all that today while I was looking at stuff, and I am excited about where this channel and this podcast could go. So we're going to keep pushing forward. But as I said, in a little bit of a recap, for those who may not have heard, we are going to continue on with the relatively daily podcasts for Sports Talk with Hawk. Through the off season of football, it'll be a podcast Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. My goal is to have them release sometime around lunchtime every day, so you can listen to them on the way home from work or whatever it may be, or if you're bored or at the gym or whatever. That is my goal, is to have them release but around noon, 1 o'clock Eastern time, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And we're going to go over a bigger variety of topics as we get into this. I've got some things that I was writing down on my trusty clipboard. Yes, I still write things down. It's a lot of fun. That is how I grew up. It's how I learned how to do a lot of the stuff that is kind of a part of what I do now in real life. So that is exactly what we're going to do. I got some different topics. We're going to be looking at stuff. One of the things that next week we're going to be looking at, not sure which day yet, but next week we will be looking at the NBA trade deadline. Now, for those of you who do not really fancy the NBA, that's okay. It won't be the whole podcast. Don't worry. I am going to try to break it down into sections. But each podcast, the goal is roughly going to be 45 minutes to an hour, depending on what we're talking about, which I know is it is a longer podcast, and I get that. But that is my goal. That is the goal. I want to be able to kind of cover things in specific increments of time, trying to keep myself kind of on time, on task. That's what the clipboard is for. I'm making notes, what I want to hit, the points that I want to hit with different videos, with different podcasts, and I am looking forward to this. I am really looking forward to this. So if you're on Spotify, thank you for being here. Head on over to YouTube, Sports Talk with Hawk. Make sure to subscribe, hit the like button on the podcast. I deeply appreciate it, and thank you very much. I was looking at the analytics yesterday, and the consistency of being able to bring out videos automatically brings in the views, and I deeply appreciate it, guys. I absolutely appreciate it. Thank you so much. Okay, so we normally, at this stage, we are looking at the preview for the games that would be on Sunday. Well, we only have two. We have the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Baltimore Ravens, and the Detroit Lions versus the San Francisco 49ers. Something that's odd about this. Both games are the 1 versus 3 seed. Cowboys lost in the wild card, and the Chiefs beat the Bills in the divisional round. So we're going to start with the Ravens and Chiefs. Mark Andrews was activated off the IR. Yes, you heard me. Mark Andrews was just activated off of the IR Friday. So they now have Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely, Gus Edwards, Justice Hill, Lamar Jackson, Odell Beckham, Zay Flowers. Okay, Kansas City, you may have good slot corners. You don't have corners that can cover Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely. And you don't have linebackers that can do it either. For the Chiefs, it's actually different news. They're all pro guard. Thuney is out. Out. They have 4 starters questionable, most notably Isaiah Pacheco. Now, my guess is they all play. It's a playoff game. You got 2 weeks to rest up before the Super Bowl. My guess is they play. You can't afford to rest players that can play football. I.e., Deebo Samuel is cleared. He's not 100% at all. But he's cleared to play because this is his first shot at the Super Bowl. So what do we know about this Ravens versus Chiefs game? Well, here's what I'm gonna throw out there, and I threw out this after the Bills game in the recap earlier this week. The Ravens are not going to be the Bills. Mike Macdonald is not going to come out flat against Patrick Mahomes. Thuney is now out. Jawan Taylor now has no safety blanket next to him. And if I'm Mike Macdonald, I am blitzing 3 to 4 on that right side every time, straight in the face of Patrick Mahomes, making him move visually. I don't think. Last week I thought McDermott would do better. I really did. I knew the Bills were absolutely decimated in the linebacking and secondary. I knew the injuries had piled up. Your defensive line was still there, and you could not make it to where they could get to Patrick Mahomes. You got to do better. You have to do better. Baltimore will do better. Baltimore is not going to let them rest. He's not going to let them lay back and just kind of leisurely go down the field. The Ravens have people that can cover Travis Kelce. They have guys that can easily blitz and get to Mahomes. Corner blitzes are, well, let's just say, very well done by the Baltimore Raven defense. So what this game, to me, will come down to, if the Chiefs want to win, they have to be able to slow the game down. You can't get in a shootout with Lamar. You can't get into a shootout with that defense. You can't get down. You need to really shrink the game. The game has got to feel like a 48-minute game and not a 60-minute game. You really got to shrink it down. Take away their ability to move. Take away their ability to just start clicking so easily. Like, it's not that they're clicking, it's the fact that it's so easy. You've got to take away the ease of what they're doing. That's what you have to take. Reality is, I said it last week, and the Bills didn't do it. I said you rushed the right side. Jawan Taylor is one of the weakest right tackles there is. Take advantage of it. And they never did. This week, on the road in Baltimore, Kansas City will get stomped 31-20. But you're never going to feel like they were in the game. The Baltimore Raven defense will be all over Patrick Mahomes. They're not going to let the run game beat them. Excuse me. Without their all-pro guard, I don't think they've got enough power to do so. I don't think the offensive line is strong enough to make this work. Baltimore wins 31-20. The Ravens can control the game. The only way the Chiefs win is if they can get a long drive, if they get the ball first. And I would take the ball first. I wouldn't let Lamar get up on you 7-0 without doing anything. I would take the ball first as Patrick Mahomes and go out there and take a long 8-minute, 9-minute drive to open the game would be huge. Would be huge. Shrink the game. That is the Chiefs' only chance of winning on Sunday. Their only chance. The Baltimore Raven defense is too good. The Kansas City Chiefs defense is really kind of smoke and mirrors. They've got some good players. Like I like a lot of their defensive line. Obviously, Chris Jones. You know, Willie Gay at linebacker. You know, their corners, McDuffie. I really think it's a lot more smoke and mirrors. I think the scheme is working rather well. Steve Spagnuolo, credit to him. His scheme has worked really well for the skill set of the players on the Chiefs defense. It absolutely has. Snead, McDuffie, absolutely exactly what you need. But the reality is they've never faced an offense, and the Bills moved the ball. The problem is they decided they weren't going to do what they had done the previous 7 weeks. Went back to Josh Allen hero ball. Save us, Josh. We don't know what we're doing. Big game. You got to win. I.e., Philadelphia, Buffalo. You've got to do it all. Not just make 5 amazing plays. You got to make 15. And Baltimore won't do that. They're going to be able to run on Kansas City. They're going to be able to get their tight ends involved on crossing routes, levels, patterns. And then they're going to have the seam wheel routes with Zay Flowers. They're going to have a couple shots with Odell Beckham. This is where being the best team in the NFL is going to show up. So my prediction, 31-20, Baltimore over Kansas City in the AFC Championship game. Now, who are they going to face? Well, I don't know. I don't know. The Zach Ertz pickup for the Detroit Lions, to me, actually is really big. Like I liked their backup tight end. Their backup tight end is a very serviceable backup tight end. He's made some big catches this year. But Amon-Ra St. Brown can take the top off of the defense. Josh Reynolds can kind of run the mid. But then if you have Laporta and a Zach Ertz, that gives you a lot more flexibility and play action with the running game. Now, I really do believe the Lions have the team to beat the 49ers. It's not going to be about the team, okay? They got the players. They got the team. I don't know which Lions skill set's going to show up. They got blown out by Baltimore. So has everybody else. They've struggled on the road. But as the season progressed, they got better. They beat a Saints team on the road. They beat the Vikings on the road, divisional opponent. They technically and truthfully beat the Cowboys on the road. This isn't going to be winter weather. Could it be raining? Yeah. But if it's rainy and wet, it actually kind of leans more towards Detroit's favor than San Francisco's. And this is why. Detroit's offensive line is better. Ragnow, Taylor Decker, Penei Sewell. This offensive line is really good. Really good. So, if it's going to be a running game, I would take the team that has two running backs, David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs. Quarterback and receiver-wise, I believe it's a wash. Tight end, I'll still give that one to George Kittle. But when you combine them, Laporta and Ertz, both of them outdo George Kittle. This game to me is just, it screams close game when you look at it on paper. It screams it. Like it is yelling from the top of Mount Fuji. And just screaming close game. Here's my question. San Francisco's offense runs a lot more close to the line of scrimmage. Your deep routes are not deep routes. They're not. Brock Purdy is going to have Aiden Hutchinson barreling down on him. Aaron Glenn has used corner blitzes rather well. Now, if you guys remember, for those of you that are a little bit older, Aaron Glenn was a very good slot blitzing corner for the New York Jets. And he at times up the blitzes, especially with Sutton. He uses his tallest corner to blitz because Sutton can jump. Absolutely can jump. And he times up the blitzes so well. If the Lions on defense decide that they're going to go press because they don't want to give 5-7 yard completions and just let them, as the old saying goes, percolate the ball down the field. If that's the last thing they want to have happen, well, you're going to need to press them. You got to press the corners. And I believe they will. I believe they will. I don't see any aspect in where they can't. I like Detroit. I really like Detroit. But San Francisco, let's just be honest. Bosa, Young, Armstead, Kinlaw, Werner, Ward. Let's just be honest. That defense is stacked. Now, I will say this. The defense does not look impenetrable like they did with DeMeco Ryans. Steve Wilks, listen, I think Wilks needs at some point, maybe next year, I think Wilks deserves another chance as a head coach. He got the complete raw end of the deal in Arizona. I mean, look, Gannon is not getting fired. Okay? So let's just realize I think he would be a better head coach than a coordinator. But their defense, although the scheme doesn't look as good as it has been, the skill on the defensive side of the ball is still so good that it doesn't matter. Like, legitimately. The skill on the defensive side of the ball outdoes the scheme. So if I'm Detroit and I'm Ben Johnson, and Ben Johnson is supposedly a slam dunk done deal for Washington, and I do like the hire. It's very San Francisco-esque. But I think because of Ben Johnson coming back last year and telling teams, no, I'm staying here, I think that gave him a year to be with Dan Campbell. And not just be with Dan Campbell, but an opportunity for Dan to show him a little bit more of what the head coach may have to do. Because they knew he was going to get offers. And he said last year, I'm staying. And this year, he's leaving. And who Dan Campbell's going to get to replace him, I cannot wait. I cannot wait for this. So, Ben Johnson is really going to showcase his play calling abilities in this game. How he moves Amon-Ra St. Brown. How he uses the two tight ends. How he uses both running backs. Are we going to be doing screens? Are you going to chip or basically bulldoze Bosa and screen it to his side? Because San Francisco tends to not protect Bosa's side of the field nearly as much. So do you motion Ertz or Laporta in and have them take out Bosa? screen over the top, get Sewell and Ragnow out in front of either Montgomery or Gibbs, and you roll the ball down the field. I don't know. I can see that working. I see a lot of screens being how they do this because Chase Young and Bosa are going to be after Goff. Tight end middle screens. One of my favorite screenplays. Get the tight end the ball almost directly right behind the big guys. Let him rumble for 7, 8 yards, and sometimes you can get 10, 12, 15. So this game just screams close. It screams grudge match. It screams the two best teams in the NFC. Deebo Samuel is going to play. I said that earlier. I don't like it. I don't like it. He has to. It's for a shot at the Super Bowl. So, yeah, he's going to play. Should he play? That is the bigger question here. Should he play? It's a shoulder injury. One tackle from Alex, one tackle from Hutchinson, one tackle from Brian Branch. On that shoulder, he's out. I know in a general prediction you shouldn't do this, but I don't believe that Samuel plays the whole game. Which is why my prediction is going to be Lions 23, Niners 20. I like Michael Badgley kicking. I just don't trust Brock Purdy when if he's down by 10, down by 7, I don't trust him against a opportunistic defense. Yeah, they've got their holes, they struggle. They are an opportunistic defense. Against a defense like that, I believe that is Brock Purdy's main issue. Straight up. I think that is Brock Purdy's issue. The defense is going to be opportunistic. Aaron Glenn is going to mix up the pass rushes. Christian McCaffrey will probably have a good game, whether receiving or running. But Brock Purdy by himself, Deebo Samuel, I think, is going to go out. And that is why I am picking the Lions. If Deebo Samuel were to play the whole game, San Francisco wins. Close to the same score. I could see it being 24-23 San Francisco. Deebo Samuel, to me, is worth 3 points all by himself. Running, catching, motion, confusion. He's worth 3 points by himself. So because of that, I'm going to tell you, I don't see Deebo Samuel playing the whole game. And because of that, I don't see the 49ers winning. And this is going to be a hard decision for John Lynch, Kyle Shanahan. because they got to get younger, and this could be another year where they make a really interesting trade. It could be. Do they go get a veteran? They haven't to this point. But to win the Super Bowl, you can't have Jimmy Garoppolo and Brock Purdy. You just can't. You just can't. Um, yeah. I mean, that's kind of it. I was thinking about who would they trade for? Who would Kyle Shanahan make a trade for that isn't going to put San Francisco back in their plans? Who would he trade for to bring in? I was trying to think about who it may be. I don't know. Really, I don't. Really, I don't. I don't see a player that doesn't have a huge, outrageous cap hit that they would want to bring in. Like that's what I'm saying here. I don't see a huge, outrageous cap hit being brought into San Francisco. It's got to be reasonable. Well, who's reasonable right now that's a starter in the NFL? I don't know. I really don't. I don't know. Um, it would be interesting. It would be interesting if San Francisco made a swap. Now, they would probably have to include their second or their first round pick. But what if they did make a swap for say a Trevor Lawrence, I brought up the idea of the Dolphins moving off of Tua. I don't see many other options. I really don't. But you're not going to win with Brock Purdy. So what if you trade Brock Purdy to Washington? Brock Purdy, your first round pick this year, and I'm wondering what other picks they'd have to throw in to be able to get that second pick in the draft. Are you taking a gamble? Yeah. Are they afraid of it? No. I don't know what they do. And yeah, I know. There's those people out there that are like, Purdy's numbers are an MVP. Listen. Watch the games. Watch the games. There's a clip. If you guys want to know the reality of football and how bad stats can actually be, here's the reality. Go back 2 years ago, okay? 2 years ago, the Colts closed the season out with back-to-back losses to miss the playoffs. I've mentioned this before. Search it on YouTube. Pat McAfee versus Jacksonville Jaguars. The last game of the year. This is the year with Urban Meyer, okay? The last game of the year, they had to go to Jacksonville. The Indianapolis Colts had to go to Jacksonville, win that game and they're in, lose, and there was a very high chance and probability they're out of the playoffs. In that game, now this is why I do not respect guys that say wrong information, because you can tell who watches film and who doesn't. Adam Archuleta, I have never respected as a game caller. Okay? I have never respected him as a game caller. Why? This right here. His opening monologue about the Indianapolis Colts said that Carson Wentz had done a fantastic job of making sure to protect the football, not turn it over, and not give the defense the ability to make a play. That year, I mean, in one game, he threw 10 interceptions that the defense did not catch. The defense dropped 5 to 7 interceptions easily. The 49er game, they ended up winning that year. In the rain, on the road, they won. Why? He threw the ball up in the air and they kept getting pass interference penalties on the San Francisco DBs. He kept underthrowing the ball. It never got anywhere. He underthrew the ball. He had that horrible game where Tennessee, that stupid throw where it was a safety if he goes down, but he instead tried to do something weird, and they ended up intercepting the ball for a touchdown from the 2-yard line going in. That's where film matters. Brock Purdy has stats. He also has the best running back in the league, hands down. A top 3 receiver, arguably the biggest dual threat in the league, Deebo Samuel. Another receiver that is easily top 15, Brandon Ayuk. A top 2 tight end, George Kittle. The best left tackle in the game, Trent Williams. And one of the top 3 offensive play calling coaches, Kyle Shanahan. Oh yeah, and he's got a defense that doesn't make him have to play shootouts. He's not winning on any other team. Sorry, he's not. The Brock Purdy debate is fueled by people that get excited and are happy, and it's a great story. Last pick of the draft, playing now in an NFC championship. It's a great story. But he's not what is being portrayed. A lot worse. Ain't that good? He can't come from behind. If he doesn't have everything right, he falls apart. The Green Bay game. They should have lost. What did they do? They took the ball away from Purdy, gave it to Christian McCaffrey. Yep. How you win. Ran the ball down their throats. Touchdown. Took the lead. Let the defense take care of the rest. Don't let Purdy mess it up. So, to make a trade to Washington, where Ben Johnson is. Now, they may see the same thing, but here's the interesting thing. What does he have in Washington? Terry McLaurin, top 15 receiver. Brian Robinson Jr., really good young back. Solid, not as good, but solid offensive line. He'd have Ben Johnson, one of the up-and-coming, bright young play callers. Defensively, I don't think they're going to be bad next year. I don't. Now, I don't know who's going to be the defensive coordinator for Washington when he gets in. I don't. To me, it's a very important decision because you have two defensive tackles. You got to stick with the 43, especially in that division. Especially in that division. And I know I hear the questioning eyebrows that just went up. Why? Here's why. Dallas runs more of a 34. They call it a 43, but it's really a 34 because Micah Parsons is listed as a linebacker, not a defensive end. Philadelphia, 43. Big. How do you stop Jalen Hurts? Well, you get pressure with your front four. You've got to be able to create the pressure if you don't have a huge scheme behind them that's going to protect a pass rush that may not get to the quarterback. So who Ben Johnson picks as his defensive coordinator will be huge. It will be vitally important. Vitally important. We know two names it will not be. It will not be Ron Rivera, and it will not be Jack Del Rio. Yeah, I don't know where he goes. I really don't know where he goes when it comes to that. I guess we'll have to see what happens. So, to recap, the predictions for this weekend: Baltimore 31, Kansas City 20 in the AFC Championship game. And then I'm going to go 23-20 Detroit Lions over the 49ers. With the asterisk, if Deebo Samuel plays the whole game, I could see the 49ers winning 24-23. But very dependent on whether or not Deebo plays the whole game. And I just don't think it's going to happen. The first screen they do where he gets hit by Analazone or Hutchinson, Brian Branch, I don't see it. I think he's going to be back out. You can't cause permanent damage for a shot at one Super Bowl. You just can't. So those are my picks for this weekend. Kind of the layout of the game. Little bit of talk about what may happen with Brock Purdy because San Francisco's not afraid to move off. And if they lose this game because of Purdy's play, yeah, you could easily move off of it. You've got everything. You are gifted everything you have. You gotta make the most of it. You gotta do good. You can't fall flat. So I think the pressure is on Brock Purdy the most. But I could, Jared Goff, I think, is kind of playing with house money because they're on the road and it's the 49ers. I don't think the Lions have that much pressure here. I really don't. I don't think the Lions have a lot of pressure with this. I really think it's one of those, the pressure's on San Francisco. They are here again. They're here again. Can they make it back? They got roasted by Baltimore the first time. Can they get that rematch? I think the pressure's on San Francisco. But we're going to see. I'm excited for it. We'll see what happens. For those that love upsets, I know they are going 100% for the game of Chiefs versus Lions, a rematch of the first game of the season, where the Lions beat them. Works for me. All right, guys, that is going to be it for this episode of Sports Talk with Hawk. Oh, I appreciate you guys stopping by. I am, even while I'm doing this, I'm kind of just, I'm excited about next week. I really am. I'm excited about some of the different podcasts we're going to do, the topics, and what's going to be coming down the pike here on the channel. So make sure to hit that subscribe button, the like button, the bell that goes ding-a-ling every time a podcast goes live or a podcast gets released. And I appreciate it. It is going to be a fun day. It's going to be a fun day. It's championship game football. Iconic franchises. Ravens, Chiefs, 49ers, Lions. The Lions are iconic. Don't forget this. They're iconic. Whether it's good or bad, they are iconic. It's going to be a great day of football. Have fun. Be safe. Enjoy the day. And I will talk to you guys on Tuesday. Have a fantastic rest of your weekend. Until next time, this is Sports Talk with Hawk. I'm Hawk, and I'm out.